Oh, God.
All right. So I'm not gonna put this in slideshow mode just because it'll make switching back and forth a little quicker. So I'm gonna sort of go with some introductory remarks and some charts. Then we're gonna do some interactive stuff, and then I have another camera set up to be able to show things like I think I was showing that earlier. So I can show like stuff on my phone. I have my Garmin here, so we'll be able to do kind of some interactive stuff. Okay, so let's start off here. So what I want to talk about in the basic times, but the overall of why should you go electronic? What are the basic tools? How we create maps and directions, and then how to get those things to your device, and then using them on your device, and then the BikeAAA Ride with GPS library that I want to talk about, and then we'll have whatever time left over to do Q&A. Okay, so why go electronic? So this concept of digital transformation. So for anybody who's been sort of in the technology world, this is like the latest technological buzzword of digital transformation, and there's a lot of buzzwordiness around it, but especially in the directions and mapping genre, it's something that I think everybody can really understand. Back in the 30 years ago, when you were making a trip, you go to AAA, they'd sit down, they'd write you out directions, the old triptych, and they had ways of gathering information that was pretty slow, and that was pretty laborious. Then the next step was, okay, we have maps on CDs, which is just sort of the digital version of paper maps. That didn't really change things necessarily, except it made it electronic. But then once we started getting digital devices like TomToms and Garmin GPS units with maps on them, the world really started to change, because now you can show where you are on the map. They're interactive, and of course now with phones and GPS and maps, the amount of data that's integrated into into maps now is it's sort of infinite, and it has really fundamentally changed the way we navigate. How often do you plan a route other than put in where you're going in Google Maps or Apple Maps, whatever you want to use, and it just spits it all out for you. And now we don't really think about it, we just do it. And so that's truly a digitally transformed genre. And I think now the fact that most riders have some sort of GPS device on their bike, either it's a dedicated unit, a Wahoo, Garmin, or equivalent, or a smartphone. Virtually everybody who's riding a bike's probably got a phone in their pocket. So, that's certainly a device that can be used. Why do you want to do this? It certainly lessens or eliminates the reliance on road markings if you're on an organized ride, or posting signs, or having street signs. A lot of times in rural areas, there's no street signs. Have paper cue sheets or maps, or that kind of stuff that, just really cumbersome to use. And as my wife says, she's amazed that, I haven't been permanently lost, because my sense of direction is not, and especially the older I get, the worse it gets. And so if I'm going for a ride in a place that I don't know, I'll do what I'm going to describe here, put it on my Garmin, and you can always not get lost, but it's just easy because you get turn-by-turn directions. You don't have to keep stopping and pulling your phone out and all that stuff. So it just really makes life easier. If you're doing a ride with paper maps and cue sheets and stuff, you have to have pretty accurate mileage tracking to know where your next turn is going to be and how much distance. If for people who sail or have done navigation, the old school is basically a dead reckoning plot. That requires some pretty accurate record keeping. Now that we have digital devices and GPS and maps, you just don't really have to keep track of that stuff for the most part. And with devices that beep at you and have some sort of GUI, they can give you turn-by-turn directions that you can pretty easily get while you're riding, and doesn't require a lot of attention, because it beeps at you, tells you to turn right, and away you go. And then lastly, for anybody who's run a big ride like the Lifeline, you're going to have to print 1,000 pieces of paper, which is, it's expensive, it's cumbersome, and it's, frankly, it's a bit wasteful if you don't really need it. And a lot of times that stuff ends up, in the ditch because it falls off somebody's bike or anyway, it's just nice not to use the paper. Okay, so what are the basic tools we use? So you have to have some kind of mapping software, and there's a lot of different platforms out there. And with the advent of web apps, this is all virtually done on web apps online. I don't even know of any standalone things anymore, but I'm going to talk mostly about Ride with GPS because that's what we use, and that's what I have the most experience with. But I've also used Komoot. Strava has a routing function now. Map My Ride is sort of gone a little bit by the wayside. There's other things like Plot a Route and a bunch of different other ones. They all have different features. Some are better at some things than others. But so far, Ride with GPS, we really like, and it has a lot of great features. One, this BikeAAA Library that I'll talk more about at the end. So you use these platforms to use the GUI to create routes, and a lot of them will create the turn-by-turn directions for you. Then you have to, of course, display it on you have to have a device with the GPS. So that's any kind of bike computer. Even so, the one that I'm going to show, I have a Garmin 520, which is a pretty simple model. But you can go all the way up to the higher level Garmins that have really nice touchscreens and maps, and it's almost basically like the mapping on a phone. And of course, phones, either Android or iPhones, with the Ride with GPS app that you can download for free. And then you have to get the file to one of those devices. And if you've got a bike computer, typically you do that by plugging it into a USB on your computer. I have a slide on doing this wirelessly. It's a little more complicated, but it saved me a few times when I didn't have a cable and I wanted to get something from my phone to my Garmin, or from my computer to my phone to my Garmin, when I've been traveling. That works pretty well. And then, of course, you need Wi-Fi or cellular to load the route onto a phone. But as I'll show, the USB route's pretty much the easiest thing to do. Okay, so creating maps and directions. Like I said, we use the Ride with GPS platform, and we have a library in our BikeAAA account. And one of the neat features about this is any route that's in that library, any user can use with all of the paid features of Ride with GPS. And that's because we have this tourism account, which is a high level account. And that's one of its benefits, is it lets you offer routes to people, and they don't even have to have if you want to just download the route and put it on your Garmin, you don't even have to have a Ride with GPS account, but you get all of the paid features. So I'm gonna create a route at the end of the slide with Ride with GPS, and it's of course not a full tutorial. In 15 minutes I can't do a full tutorial, but it'll give you a flavor of how it works. And with the free Ride with GPS account, you can create these same routes the same way. You don't get access to all of the features, but it all works pretty much the same way. And the basic procedure is you use the route planner, which is basically a map, and you just start clicking on streets and Ride with GPS, and it just draws the routes along roads. You can tell it, like if there's no road, you can tell it to go there anyway, and I'll show how that works. And it's nice because it's all just done graphically. It's pretty simple. And the cues are auto-generated. It's really nice, but a lot of times you have to review them, and especially if you're doing something that's a lot of routes I've done for bike packing tend to go places that aren't well mapped, so you end up having to just draw lines and do cues by yourself. And of course, you can put additional information, points of interest, stops, and so if you've ever done the Lifeline, we put the rest stops in there, and and things like that, other information, caution stuff. So you'll get notified on your head unit of something that you need to be notified about. So you just save it, you publicize, put it on your device, and go. All right, so with that, I'm going to jump over to my browser and jump into Ride with GPS. So I'm logged in the BikeAAA account, and this is our route library. But just go to Plan, brings up the Composer interface. And of course knows I'm in Annapolis, so it'll start me out here. So I'm just for fun, I live in West Annapolis here, and so I'm going to just create a little fun little route around my neighborhood. And okay, so I'm at the corner of Monterey and Shiley Street. So I'm going to start here. So that's actually my house. So I'm going to start here, and so we'll just go around, and all I have to do is just start clicking, and it'll just automatically, draw lines where I want to go. So I'm going to go to here, up on Old Crossing Lane, and for those of you familiar with this area, this line right here, this is the old B&A Railroad, and it's not a rail trail or anything, but you can ride your bike down it. And so just for fun, I'll show you what happens when you do that and ride with GPS. So one of the things you notice that the line is dotted. So that's showing that it's unpaved. So interestingly enough, even though that's not like a cycling route, it knows about that. And so this is really handy if you're doing off-road bike packing and stuff. So next thing is, okay, we get to the end here. Now, how do we get back out onto the road? Well, I know there's a fence here, and there's a gate, and I know we can get through that gate. So one of the things that's really helpful to use is you can use the Google Street View guy. So just to, and this is really helpful when you're trying to figure out, okay, what's it look like on the ground? So over to the right here is the trail. This is just a little access road, and this is the fence I was talking about. So I know there's a gate down there. So I'm just going to draw a line to get me through the gate. Because if I were to just try to do this, it doesn't know there's a gate there, so it's backing me all out. So I am going to just undo that. Okay, so I'm going to switch here to draw a line. So right now on routing, it's basically saying, okay, follow places that we know you can ride on. So I'm going to instead say draw lines, and I'm just going to come through the gate here. And so it's going to draw a line there. I'm going to switch back to roads because now I know I'm back on roads. So I'm going to just come back around here, and then we'll go back around Warder Drive, take a little tour of the neighborhood, and come back to the house. I'll go here.
And switch to drawing lines.
Come back to the house.
If you know that you can want it to do something.
Okay, so there's my little route.
Switch
Shows it's a mile, gives you the elevation gain and stuff. And one of the things that it'll show here is this is the cue sheet that it generated. So it says, okay, turn left on Shiley Street. That's good. Okay, turn on Giddings Avenue. That's good.
Do you remember using it?
Turn right on Old Crossing. That's good. Turn left, and you'll say, oh, okay, maybe that's not as complete as I want it. So turn sharp left, and maybe I'll say turn sharp left on trail.
Oh, you see that?
See, so that's what it looks
Save.
like on iPad.
And now it's going to go down the trail, and then let's see. So what you can see is there's no cues here because it doesn't really know what I did. So I'm going to just say add a custom cue. I'm going to say
That's Richard Clark.
Ask questions.
let's see. Turn left through the gate. So I'm going to add that in there. Turn left through the gate, and then so now it's back on this route. Turn slight right, go right around the roundabout, turn left onto Westwood. Actually, on this one, that's not really a left turn. It's really just going straight. So what I'm going to do is delete that because I think it's superfluous.
Sometimes there's bullshit ones.
And then take a left on Claude, or a left on Scott Drive, a left on Claude, and a right on Monterey. So I'm all happy with that. So now I'm going to save it, and I'm going to just call it
I'm gonna see this.
test webinar.
So I think
Something unique, so when I go to find it on a device, it'll be easy to see. I'm gonna make it public. There's no events. There's a bunch of other options here that I won't necessarily talk about here, but tags are something. I'm just gonna tag it with ABRT, and I'll get into more reasons about what tags do later at the end. So I'm gonna save that.
you just
Now
gotta
go
sign in.
and view the route.
So I've always
So
done it
so here we are with this route.
that way.
And now we're ready to go ride. So what do we do? So there's a couple ways to do this. So the first one, let me go back to my charts here.
So one thing, sign into the app. Or to the website.
Okay. So next, so how do we get it to a phone? That's probably the easiest thing. And the simplest method is to use the Ride with GPS app on your phone. On your bike, all you have to do is have a nice handlebar mount. You just go into the free Ride with GPS app. You have to create a free account, but that's pretty simple to do. You search for the route, you review it, and you navigate. So here are some just screenshots what that's like, but I'm going to actually demonstrate that real quick with that route that I just created. So let me jump over to my my other camera. Okay, so
Muted?
here's my
Yes.
here's my phone in this camera. So I'm just going to go to Explore, and I'm going to type in test webinar. Search for this.
You can press on that and bring it up.
If I can.
I think you'd have to do it.
What did I call it? Did I call this thing test webinar or webinar test? Test webinar. Oh, here it is. Okay. Click on that. And you see that brings up the route. And if I wanted to use this Ride with GPS app on my phone, I just put my phone on my handlebars. You click navigate, and away you go. And so I'm inside, so it doesn't have the GPS signal here, but it would navigate me to the start, and yeah, there it is. Navigate me to the start and tell me, which way I should go. So turn left on Shiley Street, and then as I go, it'll start beeping at me and telling me to turn based on those cues that I rolled through pretty quickly. So it's really simple. And so pros are that you don't really need anything extra. It's great for short rides. You can download the route onto your phone if you want. So for example, if I go, let me stop sharing really quick so this will be a little bit bigger. I mean, can you see this video okay? Of the phone. So if I were to go out to here in your library, routes, where I am. So you can save it, and so download for offline. That way, you're not using any data, and that'll help save your battery too. And then there's also this concept of save to pin, and that's basically like a favorite. So if I save to pin, and then I go to library pinned, you can see I have the test webinar. So it's basically a favorites. And that's actually how you would use it. And I'll explain a little bit later if you wanted to get it to your Garmin wirelessly. So the cons for this method is that, if you're doing a century ride, unless you have an external battery pack unit, your phone might not last that long. Because it does use some battery. Your screen might blank. If you leave the screen on, then it's problematic. So that's maybe why using a Garmin head unit would be better for a longer ride. But your phone with a touchscreen is a nice large screen, and it's easy to navigate on. So there are really some benefits. Also, as I show here, you can, if you had a Bluetooth earbud, it can talk to you and give you instructions that way, and that's pretty handy. Okay, so the next way to get it is to actually download it and get it onto your phone. And so you basically, or onto your head unit, whether it's a Garmin, a Wahoo, or whatever. Basically, you connect your device to your computer with USB. This device shows up as a drive on the computer. Navigate it, drop it onto your device, disconnect, and at least in the Garmin, the instructions for the Wahoo are different, and they work differently, but conceptually it's the same. So let's go grab that course that I created and do that. So here we just export the fit file. You can download other export options. So, there are a bunch of different things you can do depending, what you want to do with it. But this fit format has become sort of a de facto standard. It's a Garmin proprietary binary file, but pretty much all devices support that now. So it's become sort of a de facto standard. So I'll export that. And one of the things you'll see here is that because this is in the BikeAAA library, this notification, selecting when you want to change the notification, this is a fully paid feature. So if you were doing this in a free account, not through the BikeAAA library, you wouldn't get these options. But because you're in, this route is in our library, we get this full feature. So we'll download, and this is going to go, wherever you have your thing set to go. Mine's going to go to my downloads folder. Okay, so I go to my downloads folder here. Here's this test webinar fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that. And then you see here's my Garmin device that shows up as a USB drive. And in the Garmin, the place you put that in is a folder called New Files. And so I'm just going to paste that there. And so it copies that in. And what's going to happen is when I disconnect my Garmin, it's going to reboot. And what the Garmin will do is it'll check that New Files folder for anything you put in it, and then it'll move it into the routes where, I don't know where it stores it internally, but it just knows to look in there for new stuff and then go and do that. So let me put my Garmin in there. So I'm going to unplug my USB, and I should have ejected it first, so my computer's going to bark at me. Okay, so my Garmin's booting up. By the way, this, you can see I have my my name and phone number in my Garmin. There's a pretty cool way to you drop a text file in a certain place on your Garmin, and it'll put that info there. So if you ever lose your Garmin, somebody turns it on, if they do the right thing, they'll call you and return it. And that's actually happened to me. So it's a nice thing to do. Okay, so in the Garmin, so I'm going to come down here and go to training is where these things are, and then courses. So you can see I have a couple of things here. I have a route through Annapolis Waterworks because, like I said, my sense of direction is so horrible. I get lost back there. I mean, I've ridden Waterworks 50 times, and every time I go in that, if I don't use this route on there, I get lost. So anyway, it's good to have. So you can see I have a Lifeline metric, and then of course this one we created this test webinar. So I just select that, it loads it, and I say ride. It loads the course. Would you like to start? And if I were not close to the beginning, it would say, do you want to navigate to the start? And you could say yes or no, but I'm near, I'm gonna say okay. And so now you can see I'm pointed here, and it's, the first thing is, and I don't know if it's gonna lock onto the satellites because I'm inside, but it'll give me the directions and tell me to turn left on Shiley Street and yada, 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 follow all of those instructions. And on the Garmin here, okay, ready to navigate. So yeah. So my first turn is take a left, so it's thinking I'm on Shiley already, but anyway, so it's going to give you the directions, give you the directions up in the corner here, the distance to the next turn, and what the street sign is. And with the Garmin, I have it set up to view speed and heart rate. You can set up whatever you want there. So it's pretty simple. Okay, so now let's go back to my slides here. Okay, so doing this wirelessly, this was interesting, and I figured out how to do this when I was down in Florida. The ride I wanted to do that I had all planned out ahead of time, I didn't end up doing because it was 30 degrees in northern Florida, and that's not why I was in Florida. So we went to the Keys, and I did a different ride, but I didn't have a micro USB cable with me that allowed data transfer. So I figured out how to do this, and basically, if you have the Ride with GPS app and the Garmin Connect app on your phone, you can connect those two together by allowing the Garmin Connect app to read data from Ride with GPS, and then of course if you pair your phone to your device, then you can transfer it from
Turn left onto Shiley Street.
Oh boy, this thing is talking to me. You can have it transfer from Ride with GPS to Garmin Connect, and then Garmin Connect will send it to your device via Bluetooth. And basically the way that you do that is if you have one of these pinned as a favorite, then the Garmin Connect will look for any route that's pinned and transfer it to your device, to your head unit. So it's a little complicated. I'm not going to do any more to show that, but it does work. And once you figure out how to do it, it is a little bit easier than having to deal with cables. So I have the instructions in the charts here, so these can be standalone, but obviously I've demonstrated that. But the cons are it's a little bit more work up front, and especially like me, if you have a smaller Garmin device, you don't generally have quite the navigational experience that you might have on a larger device. But if you've got a Garmin 1000 plus or something with a big screen, that can be as good as a phone, and they're generally their battery consumption is much better. So this is probably the nice way to go. And chances are you're going to have this on your bike anyway, because to record your ride. So this, this way you can leave your phone in your pocket and save it for, using it for other things. Okay. So now I'll talk a little bit about the BikeAAA route library. So Ride with GPS has a bunch of different account levels. And as I mentioned, you can create a free account and use the basic features and do pretty much what I've shown. I think you might not get there's some queue reviewing that's a paid function, and I use the paid one so much. I'm not even sure what's paid and what's not anymore, but the abilities are a bit better there, through our tourism account. And like I said, any routes in our library can be used by anybody with all the paid features. And I'll tell you how that, how we operate that with local clubs in the last slide. One of the things that we can do is we can assign route managers to if you have a Ride with GPS account, we can assign you to be a route manager in our library. So if you're, say, the route manager for a local bike club, you could put rides in here and then make all of rides that you create and store in our library available to your club, basically without having to have a high level paid Ride with GPS account. And one of the ways that we try to keep all of these routes from being sort of a chaotic mess is through this concept of tagging. And I'll show a little bit of that in the Ride with GPS app. But basically, if you're a route manager for a bike club, you tag all of your routes with your club so that you can easily make logical collections of your routes. And what's nice about that is if there's a ride in the library that belongs to another club, but you want to use it as one of your logical collections, you can always tag it with your club, because you can have 1 to n number of tags on a route. The only thing we ask is that if you didn't create it, please don't edit it, because somebody else probably put a fair amount of time into creating it, but you certainly can use it. And I'll show some of the ways that can be used. So let me just real quick show the ABRT website of which I maintain some of these routes for them. So on our training rides page, we have a bunch of our routes that we do, and so I was able to create. This is a Ride with GPS embed in an iframe. For web people, you'll know what that means. But what I was able to do is create this embed that says show all the rides that have the tag ABRT. So if I click in on these, you can see here's our Tuesday. For those of you who have done the Tuesday ride, if you click on that, that'll take you over to the Tuesday ride. And this is just one of the routes in our library. So there it is. So you could export that and come ride with us on Tuesday. And so basically, anytime a route is created with the tag ABRT, if I refresh this page, it will show up. So if I zoom in here a little bit, and I go out to Annapolis, let me refresh the page, and that route that I created should show up here. And if it doesn't, I'm not sure why that is, but it should anyway. Anyway, it doesn't show up, but I'll have to investigate why that didn't work, but maybe this is just cache for now or something. But anyway, at some point that little route will show up there because I tagged it ABRT. And then, you can take individual rides and embed them. So, this is our Saturday ride, Sunday ride, or different routes, etc. So anyway, this is really nice that you can, even if you store those routes in our library, you can still arrange them on your own website any way you want. So, you can still do pretty much anything you want with them. Okay, so that was that demo. And so now we get to, okay, well, I'm interested in using, what I've shown is really cool. I want to use the library. So here's the rub and the ask is that if you belong to a bike club and you want to use this feature, we ask that you join BikeAAA because we want to represent as many cyclists in the county as we can, and we offer bike club memberships to any member clubs in the county, and as a perk for joining as a bike club member, basically all of your members become BikeAAA members as part of that umbrella membership. But one of the perks is we will give you access to the route library to start putting routes in and storing them and using them for your members. And so at the moment, ABRT, ABC, and ABC probably has the most number of routes, and others we've talked to are starting to use. And as I mentioned, this tagging feature allows us to sort of keep track of all of these things, like who owns what. And essentially, it's sort of a big bucket of routes, and this tagging feature allows you to logically collect those things as your routes. And if you're interested in doing this, there's a whole separate tutorial we could do on using the route library and how to create these embeds for your website and that kind of stuff. But that's sort of beyond the scope of most of this discussion.
Alex, I'll just quick mention that in addition to ABRT and ABC, Annapolis Bike Club, Severna Park Peloton is a club member, and I know
Yep.
Mike Binnix is with SPP, Velo City Riders, and the Annapolis Tri Club are all
Right.
already club members.
Yep, and I've talked to several folks about using the library in the past. So, but it's a great feature, and it's a nice perk, and it's a way to essentially get all of your members up to speed and plugged into BikeAAA. So that's a little bit of a shameless plug for BikeAAA, and I'm learning from John, but that's a really nice perk to come out of that. And then there's some resources, on the app stores in Apple and Google. You can get these apps to make all this happen. And the Ride with GPS has a lot of really good help, and a lot of different articles about the Wahoo element, which I don't have one, but I understand they're really nice. And I know people are starting to switch over them. Evidently, they have better UI designers than Garmin, is what people tell me. They seem to be a little bit easier to use. But I'm not plugging Garmin or Wahoo. I think they're both good units. So that's I've done a run through a lot of that, a little quicker maybe than the hour I thought it might take. So we have even more time for questions. So I would entertain any questions, either on the general process, how to use them, working with Ride with GPS for routes, whatever people think that maybe I went over too quickly, or if they have questions about things they want me to expand on, I'm happy to do that.
Alex, this is Mike. Right at the very beginning, you were showing how to create this route.
Yep.
I understand once you get it to the phone, but the web program that you're using, is that sponsored by BikeAAA, and then you would log into that, join their organization, log into that account, and you could create a route for yourself? Or is that a an iOS application that you can run, or rather a Mac or PC application you run on your own laptop? Where does the starting point come when you want to create your own?
Yeah. So let me jump back over to Ride with GPS. So the starting point is the Ride with GPS web app. So if you see, we're at ridewithgps.com, and where you go to the route planner. So that's basically where it starts. And like I said, virtually all of these platforms now are online. There really aren't, at least to my knowledge, any standalone route managing or route creating apps. I mean, there may be some, and I just don't know about them, but virtually all of them have some sort of connectivity to some larger, more powerful back end. So for example, they need to get information about what's on Google Maps. So they have to get their information from someplace. So you would start there, and then that route is exported either
you
through
create you create your personal account on Ride with GPS, but how do you associate it then with BikeAAA?
Yeah, okay, so that's a good point. So let me just show that real quick. So I'm signed into the BikeAAA. So let me sign out here. And so I actually personally have the free Ride with GPS app. So if I go to, if I just go to home, so this is my free Ride with GPS app. And so you see the icon is the
Looks like
the icon that I use. So this is just a free one. So basically what you do is you would go create your free account, and I've created a bunch of different rides here, just in my own account. And then if you want to interact with the BikeAAA library, basically, as administrators, we will give you permissions for your personal account to do certain things in our library. So it has different permission levels. You can be an administrator, you can be a route manager, and I think there's one slightly lower level. But typically, we would make, if there's somebody in a bike club who's a BikeAAA member club, typically we would ask them to designate 1 or 2 people to be route managers, and then we would make those people's accounts route managers in our library, which basically gives them the ability to create routes in our library, and manage, edit routes, and basically edit any routes in the library. So that's, everybody has to be a little careful of only editing the things that they create. But you also have the ability, if you've created a route yourself in your personal account, you can log into the BikeAAA organization and copy that in. So it doesn't move it copies. So the way you log in is, so you can see I am a member of BikeAAA. And a shameless plug, if you're ever going to go do some off-road riding in Florida, join this Florida gravel biking group. There's like 4,000 people in it, and there's a tremendous amount of off-road riding in Florida. So that's the second organization I belong to. But so I would go to BikeAAA and click on that, and it's going to say, okay, what do you want to do here? And I would sign into the organization. And because I've been given rights by an administrator in the BikeAAA organization to sign into the account, I just click into sign into organization. And now you can see I'm signed in as into the BikeAAA organization, and not, so anything that I edit now is part of the BikeAAA library and not my personal library. So when I sign out, this just signs me out of the organization. So that's the overview of how that works. Does that make sense?
Sure. So without necessarily being a creator, can someone easily have access to the routes that are stored in BikeAAA?
Oh,
the
for
local
sure.
routes?
Yep. So anybody, even if you don't, anybody here can do this now, even if you don't have a free, so let me do that. Let me sign out of the organization. Let me copy this URL. Now I'm going to actually sign out of my account. So I would be totally unauthenticated. So anybody just coming to ride with GPS would come here. And I'm going to paste in the URL to BikeAAA. And so you can see I'm not logged in at all. But we've made our route library available to the general public. Some groups like that Florida gravel biking group, you need to be a member before you can see anything, but that's not how we've set this up. So for example, say I'm just a random ABRT member and I want to get some of the ABRT routes. I just show me all the routes that are ABRT, and it basically filters them.
Alex. So that way, when you get dropped on Harwood Hill, you know how to get back to the park and ride. Exactly.
So here are the routes, the Saturday ABs, et cetera, in the test that I made. But you see, I'm not logged in. So, anybody could go here, and in fact, that's happened. People will call us, I'll get a call and say, hey, I'm in town. I saw your website. You got a group ride. I want to come. We say, if you don't know the area, go here, click on that route. And when it comes up here, you can download the fit file. So again, without being logged in, and then you do that process of getting it onto your Garmin. So that does happen a fair amount, for visiting riders and stuff. And that's something that we as a club make available that anybody wants to ride with us, and we as an organization, BikeAAA, make that available to our member clubs.
Thank you.
Any more questions about either route creation? We've got a little bit more time. I want to be conscious of everybody's time, but I could go and show you more features of the route creation if you're interested, or I can.
Hey, Alex, how this is Rick. How do you do it wireless? How do I put it on my Garmin from my
Sure. So I mean, is your Garmin paired to your phone?
Yeah, it's paired to my phone.
Yeah. So like when you save a ride, and you have the Garmin Connect app on your phone.
Yep, and so it goes to my Strava that same way. That's
right. Yeah. Okay. So let me switch cameras here again. Put my phone back on here. So one of the things you have to do is in the Garmin Connect app, go to more. It's under settings. I should have refreshed my memory on how to do this before. But there's a way to
You tell me you're on.
Hey, Alex,
Yep.
it's Dwayne Lodrig.
Hey, Dwayne.
Yeah. Hey, I have to use this all the time because I travel when Michelle and I go to Europe.
Yep.
We travel without a computer often, just an iPad.
Yep.
And therefore, you can't hook up. And the way I've done it is to download, if you go back to the home screen, the Connect IQ app, under where it says IQ on your, at least on my 1030, on my home, at the bottom of the Garmin, it'll say IQ, and you select that. And then I go with the Ride with GPS app, if you have that app. And what I've done is back on the Ride with GPS that you have on your left screen there, like you said, I pinned that route.
Yeah,
And when I turn it back on, that route, so if you've pinned this webinar or ABRT Saturday, when you've pinned that route then should show up when you select the Ride with GPS Connect IQ app on your Garmin.
right.
And then you can
I'm
tell.
just this. You have to connect. You have to connect the Garmin IQ app with the Ride with GPS app, and I'm just blanking on. I'm just blanking on how to do that at the moment.
Yeah, I just do that on my phone. I have the Connect IQ app on my phone, and I open that, and then I open the Ride with GPS IQ app on my Garmin, and they sync up.
Maybe
Did you have to download that as a widget onto your Garmin?
Correct.
Okay, then I understand. I know what you're talking about, because I see the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I should have refreshed my memory on how to do that before. But yeah, but conceptually you connect the Ride with GPS app and the Garmin IQ connect, and so the Garmin IQ app basically looks for pinned routes, will copy them, and then push them via Bluetooth to your head unit. Is how that works. But you're exactly right. When you're traveling and making changes to routes without a computer, that's really a nice way to do it. And you can actually, while I just detest working on a phone typically, you can edit routes on your phone. Like, I mean, there's a way to in the Ride with GPS app, you can edit these routes, but I did test.
So Alex, if I took that route you just made, that test route,
Yep. Mhm.
I downloaded it on my phone, but I said, look, I want to take a shortcut. I don't want to do this whole 1 mile route. I want to do a half mile. Could I edit that without messing your file up?
You would probably want to copy it.
Yeah.
And then edit it.
Okay, that's my point. Okay,
Yep.
so sometimes there's a real rides at like 100 miles, and I say I'm only up for 50, so
Right.
I'd like to be able to do a shortcut, so I could make a copy of it, and then just do half the ride or something like that, and I could.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, good.
That off course thing. Now we get rid of it.
More questions, comments?
Yeah, Alex, it's Dwayne again. Hey, if I get, when I go off course on my Garmin, I get the label at the bottom of the screen that says off course.
Yeah, I
And
hate
then of
that.
course, if I touch that, it goes away and it keeps coming back. How do I keep that from refreshing?
I have not found a good way to do that. That's
Oh, boy.
that's a Garmin specific device, because I think it just maybe if your GPS signal is not great because you're in the trees or something, even though you're on you're on your course, it thinks you've strayed because the signal's not great, and I find that kind of annoying. So I typically have my audio signals turned off just so it doesn't beep at me. But yeah, that's a Garmin UI issue. I wish there was a way to tell it, don't show me off course messages, but I haven't found that setting.
Okay, thank you.
Alex, interestingly, I've started running both the Garmin 1030 and the Wahoo Element. And when we're doing these kind of trips, then I've got one computer, I can look at data, one I'm looking at the map. But interestingly, the Wahoo has been much better at when I'm running the same exact file on both. And Dwayne's going, he's off course. And my Garmin's telling me I'm off course. My Wahoo's like, no, you're good.
Interesting.
So, the other cool thing about the Wahoo, I don't have it currently synced to Ride with GPS. I have it synced to Strava.
Mhm.
But if I email myself a file, a fit file or a GPX, I go to my email on my phone, I tap on that file, and the phone shows me a bunch of applications to open it with, one of which is the Wahoo, and then boom, I'm done.
Nice.
So yeah, I have to say it's a lot easier, to use under difficult circumstances. But I appreciate the bigger map on the Garmin is nice. So
Yeah, I think, like I said, what I've heard, and you've just sort of validated that, is that Wahoo has spent a lot of time on user experience, where, I think Garmin they have a lot of really good engineers and not many like people that care about user experience.
yeah.
So-
The other workaround I found, if you don't actually have the cord and you're somewhere, so you have, say, a phone or your iPad, for Garmin, you can download the file. You can go to RWGPS, download the file, and then use connect.garmin.com on either your iPad or your laptop without actually having to plug in the device.
Nice.
And then you send it to your phone. You have to use your phone to send it to the device. I've never gotten it to work from the iPad
Interesting.
or the computer, but that's helped out. I have a MacBook, and for a long time I could not I couldn't get the Garmin cord to actually interact directly, because then I couldn't plug it into the MacBook.
Right.
So I switched that by getting USB-C to USB to whatever the whatever it is on the Garmin end right now.
Yeah, I found some micro USB cables I've had don't have all the data pins necessarily. Depends on what the provenance of the cable is, and that was what I ended up in Florida was I had all these cables that would charge the Garmin, but they must not have had the data pins, so I couldn't get any
So
data.
frustrating.
Yeah, so. Cool. Well, any other last questions, comments?
No, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Great.
Hi, this is
Well-
Paul Dowdy. Just had a quick
Yeah.
question.
Sure.
Yeah, so I haven't used my ride with GPS a lot. I did trial last summer, and it was great having the route coming in, and I was getting directions all the time. I've gone back to free, and does the free option also give the directions, or do you have to pay for pay for it?
It does give directions, but you don't get things like the ability to choose how far ahead it notifies you. That's one thing. And I think in the route creation process, there are some premium features, like there's a queue review, a queue review process that if you're going through a 100-mile route with a lot of complex queues, it's nice to have that review feature that I think is a paid only feature. I didn't show that. I just sort of clicked through them, but there is a review queues function that makes it easy to jump into edit mode to fix something, then go back to reviewing. And so the features that are paid for are they're sort of like really nice to have extras and not necessarily core functionality. This is how I would.
Okay. So somebody with a free account can go to the Bike AAA and download it and be able to listen to the route as they're going along. Then that should work.
Yep. Yeah. Any routes in our library you'll get from an end user experience perspective, you'll get all of those paid features because they're in our library. And it's
cool.
That's kind of I've been very impressed with the Ride with GPS, and they don't sponsor us. We pay as much money as anybody else. So I'm just relaying my experience, but they seem to be quite forward thinking on that, in that having in a sense they're allowing us to give away that feature to our member bike clubs, and we actually ran this by them to say, hey, this is what we want to do. Is this okay? Does this violate your terms of service? And they said, no, that's fine. You pay money for this account, and we're happy to spread the love like that. So I've been very impressed with.
One last question then. I have a Wahoo Element, and my ears perked when I heard you could email the route to your phone and then have it do it automatically that way. How do I how do I take the file from the Bike AAA account and put it into an email?
Michelle, I'll let you handle that one.
So
Thanks.
when Alex was showing us, and actually I think it's still up on your screen, there's that orange bar send to device or other options. It allows you to download the fit file.
Right.
And so that'll just show up as a downloaded file. You can see it over there on Alex's screen. And then I just email it to myself.
Right, you would just open an email and add it as an attachment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I add that fit file as an attachment, send it to myself, and then I open the email and press, as I said before, I press on that icon, which is the fit file, and then it pops up with the which apps do I want, what app do I want to choose to open it up with. So I select Wahoo Element.
Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey,
I love that.
So this is a question from Michelle. You used obviously Garmin. Which one do you like, Garmin or Wahoo?
You know, I have to say the Wahoo is what I'm mainly using right now. It's smaller than my 1030. I just upgraded to the newer one. I don't know, the Bolt to the newer Element. It has color. It's and I think honestly, the navigating, when I run both of them together, I think it has been much more spot on than the Garmin.
Interesting.
That's interesting. That surprises me. But
yeah, but the Garmin has a bigger screen. And so, you know, if I'm in a strange place and it's dark, it's nicer to be, you know, using the Garmin. So as I said, if I'm somewhere I don't know and I'm really relying on the navigation, I'm kind of happy to have two different devices. You know, and then a couple of years ago, we went up to Idaho and Montana for some gravel riding, and that's when Garmin got hacked. I don't know if you guys remember that.
yeah,
Nobody could get into their Garmin account. So I was the only one who could download the routes, and actually, because we were doing the routes on a kind of day-to-day basis, I was the only one who could navigate.
And we were in the middle of nowhere.
So I've really determined it's been nice to have both options, because you never know when shit's gonna happen.
Yep.
Hey, Alex, I have a non-navigational question, but it's a Garmin question / comment. Do you run electronic shifting on your bike, and is it Shimano?
yes.
Okay. And do you have your Garmin hooked up to your hoods right now? Do you have it? Have you
No,
done that?
I'm still back kind of on
I have mine hooked.
a
I have
Gen
mine
2
hooked up.
electronic shifting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I don't have
All
any.
right.
I don't have any Bluetooth on my.
Yeah. So I think it's a module you have to add. I've done that. And I did that on my Rebay, and now I have it on my current bike. And so I was just going to so if somebody does not have that, I would say, get it. It's incredible. Because you can look at you get crutched onto that Garmin screen, which is why I run Garmin and not Wahoo like Michelle does, because so now I have the Varia radar also, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I look down at my screen now, and my screen, because it's Shimano, and now SRAM has this capability also. You can look and see what gear you're in. So you don't have to look, you know, kind of down through your bike if you're near being cross-chained or something, or there's any questions about, do I have another gear for climbing, or it'll tell you. I've got mine set up instead of the actual gears where it says, and I have 11 speed, so I have it set up 1 through 11, 11 being, you know, my fastest, best gear, and 1 being my, you know, climbing gear. And then the other thing that is nice for hands off is that you can use your hood. For years, Garmin or Shimano had these hoods, you know, up on our up above our top of our brake levers, and there was no function for them. And it's really easy to pair your so under sensors, when you have the module, you can have it look for the DI2.
Yeah.
And then but I have to say, it's the only thing, like my power meters, my lights, my radar, everything pairs seamlessly, except every time I get on my bike, I have to click a shifter and go to my sensors and select the DI2 to get it to pair. But once you've done that, your hoods, you can tinker with those. And I change pages. So I have like,
Right.
so where you would normally only have a few pages on a Garmin, I've got like 7 or 8 pages. I got the
Right, you
climate
can-
page and the
Yeah,
navigation.
you can go through them by pressing.
Yeah, you can just rip through the pages.
Right. You never
can
have to take your
one-
hands off the hoods. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have one set up, like for if you're doing intervals and laps,
Yeah.
you can have one set up there. I mean, it's really a good setup. And that's why I say, if you're running Shimano electronic and, you'll love it if you hook it up. It's another reason why Michelle's running SRAM AXS and whatever it's called. And I used to have SRAM Red. Now I've turned into a Shimano junkie just because of this Garmin interface. So anyway,
Nice.
some
Yeah.
information.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice. Okay, well, last call for any questions and. Well, great. Well, thank you all for coming and I appreciate it. And we're going to upload this video probably to YouTube, and then, we can share it and make it available after the fact to other people if they want to watch it.
And we did stream it to Facebook, so Facebook will have it also, the Bike AAA group.
Right.
Great session, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you,
so
John.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care,
Great seeing
everybody.
you all.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Yep. See ya.
Bye-bye.